The new basis upon which one can exercise their self-worth, self-experience, to be yourself, to be your authentic self. You can do it right here in El Salvador because this is the country of the free, the land of the free, the home of the Bitcoin. You can be who you want to be. You can be who you are. There's no restrictions. No one's telling you what you have to say, when you have to say it, and what you have to say it about. Just say the truth. Say the truth, and you will be free. And you can do it right here in El Salvador.
Boom. Yes, we are still alive. Yes, we are here. The world's most bullish podcast, bullshit, banter, and Bitcoin, of course, right? So, who's in the house? Mr. Orlin, aka the $1 trillion man, is in the house. Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, is in the house. Myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution, and for regular listeners and viewers, Mrs. No Show, still, aka No Show. Pod 137, what's going on, boys?
Funnily enough, I'm wondering if Miss No Show might be a surprise guest soon.
Why?
I've heard.
Oh, these are some wicked rumours which are going round, unconfirmed at this moment, but we might be able to see her soon.
Well, let's see how it goes.
I wonder if we'll get a segment on ESG when she comes on.
Got me. The first story is, what is the 4B's ESG plan for the year? I don't want to see carbon neutral. I want to see carbon negative. Taking carbon out of the atmosphere. You know what also has happened is, you know, well, we've got a new #1 video.
Oh,
is it the Bitcoin song?
It is, yeah.
Oh,
it is, yeah. So our previous highest was what was the guy? He was the
US #1.
Oh yeah, it was you're probably a racist.
Yes, yeah. You're probably
we've got
12. Yes.
Yeah, government narrative or you're right wing.
That's it. Yeah. And it says you're probably a racist in the thumbnail, I think. But eclipsing 1,200 views with, well, last time I checked, 3,300 views. It's the new Bitcoin elite meme song.
Wow.
Yeah, it's still ticking up. Like I check it every now and again. It's going up roughly by 100 views a day.
Is it true that there's a hidden Miss No Show in every single frame?
There is a single frame Mrs. No Show in that video, yeah. Naked.
I was just having a quick look because obviously we haven't been on the pod for a few weeks, and obviously the halving's been and gone. I thought, what's the Bitcoin price? Still sitting above 50k, still quite healthy. Though I can't say I've really been looking at all. We kind of like feel like we're in the doldrums at the moment. We're waiting for something to happen. Poking with a stick, going, "Come on!"
It feels so weird, doesn't it, that we are at this price and just zero excitement or love towards Bitcoin.
Yeah, I had another relative come around the other day, and I think we'd just been at 55k or something, and we dipped to 49, something like that. I'm like, oh, Bitcoin's dipping. That's right. What do you mean? Like it's 50k. I went, oh, but normally when it goes down, it normally pops back up, and it hasn't popped back up at the moment. It's just, when I got you into Bitcoin around my wedding, the price was about 20k.
Yeah.
And you bought a load then. It's more than double the price. Yeah. I'm just wondering, why is it dipped? I thought the halving was going to happen and we're going to go for it.
I heard it was bad strategy by the CEO of Bitcoin.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just so annoying hearing the normies, right? Because it's just we're literally just bouncing around in a range, right? From high 40s to mid 50s. And if you look back over the last 3 or 4 months, we're bouncing off it. Like there's clearly just that's roughly what the market values of Bitcoin for right now. Then you see a random relative at the bottom of one of those little dips, and since then we've bounced back off that. Now I think today we're at like 53K or something, up from the 49 that we were like 4 days ago or something when they're around here. And you just go, it's almost annoying. It's why like everyone really should just never look. Just
Funny,
just don't
funny,
look. Don't look. Just dip in once every 6 months, really, and you'll be happily surprised, I think. Whereas if you, once you start tracking it on a daily basis, it just like your mood goes up and down with the price of Bitcoin. It's like, oh, it's gone down 10%. Oh, what's happening? What's happening? Like, just chill. Like, literally, in the space of a week, it will recover the 10%, and then next week it will go back down again. Like, it doesn't matter. The the macro is it's going up forever. So
Yeah.
funnily enough, I went to a work event and it starts off with a conversation about how the government's thinking of banning smoking. And I said, I disagree because I don't want to be mollycoddled by the government. I should be able to do what the fuck I want, especially with the amount of tax which I pay. And somehow it went on to Bitcoin. He said, I know that you're a proper Bitcoiner, but, Bitcoin's never going to become a currency. I said, why? I just don't think it will. I said, why? I just don't think it will. I'm like, well, why? You can't say a statement like that and say what and not say why. And he couldn't explain himself. And I said, well, he says, what's Bitcoin backed by? I'm like, limited supply, scarcity. And he says, I said, what's fiat backed by? And he said, fiat's backed by, I like my fiat to be backed by government bonds. I said, you like your money to be backed by government debt?
Yeah.
The only answer that slightly flies there isn't an army, because to be fair,
I
it's
was
a
going to say,
relatively
but
legit backing.
he's
It's like,
literally
don't
said,
believe my money, I'll bomb the shit out of you. You're like, okay, I'll believe your money.
I want my purchasing power to be backed by ever increasing government debt. I want my ability to buy my Tesco shop to be backed by my gambling habit, which has got me in the hole. And I'm just like, I was just looking, kind of going, I can't remember how he won, and I think I just laughed at him and said, "You want your money to be backed by government, ever increasing government debt," and he just couldn't explain himself.
Oh yeah, it sounds like he's been chatting to an economist.
Yeah, but we went on to a different conversation. We're talking about various other bits like Israel and Palestine. I just said, I don't get involved on like the war angle or like politics or religion because it's always a shit show.
It's funny how Bitcoin ends up being like, oh, like we're talking about Bitcoin, right? Now let's just pivot to freaking Israel. Like, what are we doing here? Like these two
Yeah.
things are not intrinsically linked.
Yeah, I can't even think why it got pivoted. I wasn't even drinking, but yeah, my kind of like approach is I don't talk about these things. I don't believe in blue and red. I don't believe in God. I don't fucking care. Like all I care about is the government leaving me the fuck alone.
Yeah.
It obviously is somebody that doesn't know anything about money, clearly.
Yeah, but the thing is, you can't go to someone and say, "I don't think Bitcoin will ever become money." Why? And you can't explain yourself.
Just read a headline. He's read a couple of headlines. It's boiling the
Yeah.
ocean. It's only for fraud, blah, blah, blah. But he can't even remember the headline to tell you what the headline was.
Yeah.
He hasn't done the homework. He hasn't done the
But
10,000
funnily
hours.
enough, Miss No Show was standing next to me and didn't want to get involved in the conversation.
Oh, coward.
Yeah,
Boo.
coward. So Miss No Show, we're calling you out, calling you back to the show. Come on.
You sat there triple vaxxed. What a slut. But yeah, I weirdly actually that reminds me actually I did a consultancy gig. I mean it's not this weekend, the weekend before, and it was a repeat one that I'd done 2 years before. And at lunch they'd grab me because obviously the email that they organized this consultancy with me is at bitcoinlessons.org. So they can freaking see it there, right? So it tends to come up. So someone had brought it up in conversation. I think I even mentioned it on this pod where it was basically a board of a company worth a couple of billion. And this was the board, like a very powerful dozen people. and the topic of Bitcoin came up, so I gave him the little pitch. A couple of minutes at lunch, freaking went in on him. Kind of go, nah, it's just gonna bounce off, right? Who knows what's happened? But then 2 years later, I go back in, and to be fair, it's a lower level in the company. This one, I was rolling out the strategy a little bit lower down, so it was a slightly different group of people, but two or three of them were the same. And first break happens, one of the guys comes nearly sprinting over as I'm just like making a brew, and he's like, "I did what you said." What did I say? I bought the Bitcoin. I bought the Bitcoin standard. I like, did you read it? He's like, "Yep." I'm like, and he's like, "I'm a Bitcoiner."
Hey.
I'm like, "Really?" I was like, "Really?" Like, he's like, "Oh, I haven't. I know what you said. Like, you've gone all in. Like, you live on bit. I'm not doing that. I'm eking in. But inflation is theft, isn't it? And it's a hidden tax. And did it? And I'm like, yes, boy. Like, well done,
He
Safer
gets
Dean.
it.
Like, you fucking
He
got him.
gets
Like,
it.
all you got to do is freaking read that book. And it was nice to see, right? So it's even though like when I had that conversation with him 2 years ago, I thought that hasn't gone anywhere. Everyone's just being a bit polite, like the new
I
guys
do
come
remember you
in.
saying on the pod, yeah.
Yeah, I think it literally was on this pod where I mentioned it, and he's come up to me and gone, "I'm a Bitcoiner," and he wouldn't tell me like how much he'd put in or whatever. I was like, just percentage for the day. He's like, oh, he was being vague, but he's like, I'm not all in. I know you are, but literally just the no, it's not that company. No, it's a different one, but yeah, it was just awesome because the fact is he got into the right reasons as well. Like he wasn't just chasing gains. He
Mm,
wasn't going number go up. The first thing he wanted to mention to me was inflation's theft, isn't it? I'm like, yes, bro.
yeah.
You fucking
Yeah.
yes.
You
That is
can
why you buy
imagine that.
Bitcoin. You don't buy Bitcoin as an investment because number go up. You buy it because the current financial system is fucking you and you're opting out. And he's like, yeah, yeah. And he's like, I keep reading stuff. I'm like, it's kind of scary, isn't it? I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, there's a certain element of put me back in the pod. Like, I wish I didn't know all this now. Like,
Yes.
ignorance is bliss. But once you start pulling that thread, the whole freaking rug comes apart, and
Yes.
you're like, oh my God, like so many lies. And it's a little bit uncomfortable. And you can just see where he was in his journey. You go, he's still super fresh. I was like, when did you buy it? He's like, oh, only a couple of months ago. I'm like, oh, you left it a while then. He's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I was thinking about what you said, and then I
Yeah,
came
but the
across
thing is,
Bitcoin.
he's come back to it. You laid the
Yeah.
seeds, didn't you? I think that's how we've agreed to call it with us. You laid the seeds, but they didn't really get going for what is it, about 4 years?
Yeah, you gotta let them
It
So
germinate.
is
two,
hard,
two
isn't
years
it,
isn't
in
bad.
terms of, yeah. It is easy to get very scared and scaremonger yourself into things, but you just got to start and not want to be ignorant to it because I think that's a lot of people's issues. It's just like, I'm not bothered. Like, I'll do as I'm told effectively, or I'll continue playing by the rules as they are. And it's just like, well, yeah, okay, fair enough. But as we we always talk about, and I know obviously listeners and viewers don't see this, but there's a whole conversation that we have before we press record. And yeah, I just my new favorite word is high paid slaves at this moment in time. Yeah, because I think that we're doing it to get out of the trap effectively.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
wonder with this person, the place in his journey, he's probably not to it yet. Does he know about the pod?
Oh no, I don't tell people that I work with about the pod.
Yeah, yeah.
um, so it's just where he is on the journey because he probably isn't at the he's at the inflation is theft. How long till he's at the constantly looking at inflation and swearing about inflation and how it enrages him?
Hmm.
I wonder when he gets to that because that is a big step and it's trying to get over that though.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I think the biggest hurdle for me to get over with is that the majority of people that get into Bitcoin, they just do it for the price gains, right? And the second that it's whatever,
Do you
that
think it's a majority?
yeah, yeah. Because I got in initially for that. I was just an investor, right, looking for a good return, and I had some of the moral values of a Bitcoiner, but not all of them. And then once I got into Bitcoin, I just realized, oh, this is not just an investment. This is a lot more. This is the revolution, right? It's why the meme of you come for the gains and stay for the revolution. That is kind of normally the journey into Bitcoin. I think that's both of your journeys, really.
Yeah, we both went in 2017, was it, or 16? And it was literally just for gains, and then it just sat there for years, along with our ETH before we both went down the Bitcoin rabbit hole.
Yeah. So the biggest thing for me is to get someone out of because obviously like normally like you just described actually you come for the gains and then when you're in here for the gains there tends to be a bit of a shitcoining journey because once you're into Bitcoin, once you start following people on Twitter and reading articles, you're undoubtedly going to stumble across crypto, and there'll be a load of influencers telling you about these other coins that are even better than Bitcoin.
Actually, can we throw in the I don't know how to describe them because you've got shitcoiners. You've also got people like Peter McCormack and Pomp and so on, who are like the short term like stuff.
Influencers.
But they didn't go away from Bitcoin, did they? They stayed with Bitcoin, but they're like, oh yeah, use BlockFi, I can have a Lamborghini, blah blah blah. I don't know what you count them as.
Grifters.
Yeah, grifters and shitcoiners. I think you can quite firmly put together.
Yeah. Because even though they're Bitcoin only, well, Pump isn't really, but yeah, they're selling a product, right? They're selling a product they don't really believe in, doesn't fit to the Bitcoin ethos, but they're getting paid, so they'll shill it. And yeah, so I think a lot of people follow that journey, right? You come for the gains and you realize, oh yeah, Bitcoin's got good gains in it, but you get dragged into, but there's even better gains down here, right? These coins are newer, like Bitcoin's 10 years old or 15 years old if you're coming in now. These coins just launched last week or last month. So you have to go through all that. You have to get wrecked, and it takes years to go through all that and end up being a Bitcoin maxi at the end of it. So for this guy, he seemed to have, and obviously I credit Saifedean for this, is the fact that because in the little chat I had with them, which was I literally just gave them a little 2-minute thing about Bitcoin, and they went, so what should we do next? I went, please read the Bitcoin Standard. Just go buy that book. And I don't know how many of them did it, but he obviously went and did it, didn't read it for quite a while, finally read it, and now he seemed to have skipped a load of steps.
It's over two versions.
Double stacked.
Double stacked.
And
I finished mine,
I think
by the
that is
way.
the cheat code. If you can literally try and get someone that book in front of them, like he's skipped so many steps. I think that's maybe why he's almost within 2 years he's now a Bitcoin maxi, because if I hadn't had said the Bitcoin Standard to him, he'd have found Bitcoin and then got distracted. But the Bitcoin Standard covers all that. It covers you're going to be distracted. Here's all the shit coins. Here's why they're worthless. And so he's already pre-prepared for.
So you're saying that Dogecoin with a hat or whatever it is isn't very good?
Dog with a hat, hat with a hat. Oh my
Yeah, I was
God.
going to say there's all the various coins with a hat now. Do you get Dink going with a hat?
Probably.
Shib with a hat.
It's not on the agenda tonight, but like the thing that's happened this week, have you seen the Bitcoin fees have gone up to $120 per transaction?
I read about the fees had gone massive.
I've been reading about stuff like runes as well. What
That's
the
it.
fuck are runes?
Yes, that's why I was going to say, like, the reason why the fees have gone up so high is Rune, and it's I still don't quite understand what it is. I'm just taking it from Bitcoin Twitter, but there's essentially these NFTs called runes, and there's a limited supply of them, and the way they've done it
So how are they different from ordinals?
is, well, how is it different to a JPEG? Right, let's not try and figure out the USP of these things, like, because there isn't one.
Because there is, I was going to say, because there isn't one. We've been waiting. And,
right.
Again, I'm still here to be convinced, by the way, but until then.
I'm not going to be convinced that it's more than a receipt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These things are especially redacted, right? So the JPEG is there, and I think you know what JPEG you're bidding on. I think. And essentially, the way it works is you all bid on to win this JPEG. So you might bid, £100, say. But if you're not the highest bid, you don't win the JPEG. So someone else might have bid 200, and you can see these bids, I think. And so on average, people are bidding $5,000 for these JPEGs. What people I don't think completely understood is that usually in an auction like this, right, if you're not the winning bid, you don't have to pay. Every single bid pays. So literally, people are bidding $5,000 for a JPEG. Someone else bidded 5,001. They win the JPEG, right? They get access to the JPEG. Fucking congratulations, right? Right click save, I've got it. But at least they actually kind of won the auction. There's a whole host of people below that that bidded less. All their money just gets synced somewhere.
Wow.
I'm assuming it just goes straight to the
It's
founder.
not like it's not something run by Dan Hope or someone similar to that, is it?
Dan Held.
Whatever his fucking name is.
Oh, Dan Hill, yeah.
Yeah, I think it is that lot. Yeah, there's a load of
Yeah, who are like, oh,
Bitcoin.
this is the best thing, and then they just end up, everyone just fucking went off at them, and they just ended up blocking everyone, and then sending them responses after they block them. Oh my god! So basically, it's just like it's Ordinals Mark II. They're spamming the Bitcoin network until it goes away. God, it's one of those things like I just wish we could fucking roll this back or sort it out, but it's just the risk that it causes other issues. Because I saw something a journalist was saying, "Oh, it's cost me X amount to send this minimal amount of Bitcoin. How's this ever going to be used as a currency?" And everyone's response was like, "You're acting like 2017 didn't happen."
Yeah.
Like,
Lightning, bro.
yeah, and it's like it was the explanation. It's like, so you want to pay for a sandwich, but you're literally trying to tell the bank to bring a cart of gold to pay for the sandwich, whereas you could just use a Visa network.
Yeah, exactly. To be fair, it's an interesting debate because obviously a lot of people that get into Bitcoin don't know Lightning necessarily exists, and
No, they don't.
it's another like learning curve. So I think I probably saw the same tweet. Someone was, oh, I'm paying for a cup of coffee. Here's my £2 $28, and then there was a $120 fee attached to it, and they're going clearly doing it just so they could screenshot the transaction. They knew what they were doing. They're trying to FUD Bitcoin clearly. Um, and obviously these $120 fees didn't last long. It was literally just a peak time when these runes thing got launched, and then it's all settled down already at this point. But yeah, I think it still is a little bit of
So
a
if
wake
I
up.
buy a Bitcoin by mistake with an ordinal on it, do I then get to set it as my profile picture on Twitter?
I must admit, I have no fucking clue how it all works because they're attaching it to certain satoshis is my understanding.
Yeah. So if you
But I
buy
might own
some,
those satoshis. I'm like, oh, what the hell?
exactly.
Like, is there a random
So
JPEG attached to one of my
Hmm.
satoshis? Like,
do we have to go through and find all the URLs so we can find if we own any JPEGs and then we can put it as our Twitter picture? Because that's apparently what you do, isn't
I'll only do it if my JPEG is goatsy.
Oh,
it? I was hoping
I'm gonna
for
say I missed this, but yeah.
I was hoping for a picture like your signal one. Was it?
Yeah.
Pepe having a good time.
Okay, should we actually talk about some stories now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
let's rattle through some stories. It's been a while.
We've already touched on the halving. The halving happened, right? It happened. I don't know how it happened, but it happened on 420. The 20th of April. I don't know quite now how that happened, but
Yeah,
yeah.
because it was touted for 18th stroke 19th, and then kind of, yeah.
I'm pretty
Questions?
sure that miners even freaking might include it, like, let's make some slow blocks happen just to like get it onto 420. But yeah, but the big concerns around all this was, yet again, like obviously the mainstream FUD was, but once the halving happens, the Bitcoin miners are all going to switch off. Like the reward is halved, right? We're going from 3.25 to 3.1.
2.5.
Da, 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 da. So,
Yeah.
literally the amount of money or the amount of Bitcoin that you get by mining a block is going to get halved
I
overnight.
thought
Literally,
I,
one block is 6.125, the next one is 3 point da, da, da. Why would anyone mine that, right? The hash power has still gone up.
yeah, it's long term thinking again, isn't it? So it'll be interesting because I think it encourages people looking at the long term predictions of Bitcoin, what they think it's worth, so they're willing to take a bit of a loss. Then it's also looking at, well, how can we actually get more mining power? So the cost of them mining a block goes down, and I think that's possibly where this actually leads us into a better situation.
Yeah. Well, I think the fact is, like we've said numerous times, is that like the Bitcoin miners talk about skin in the game. Like they have huge skin in the game. And they the good thing about Bitcoin as well, the monetary policy is open, it's transparent, it's written in code.
Yeah.
There's no one that is surprised about the halving happening, right? It's like no one can say, "Oh, I didn't know that was going to happen." Like, there's not a single miner in the world that mines Bitcoin and it was surprised when the amount of the like the payment per block gets halved. Whereas obviously in the fiat land, we have no clue what interest rates are going to do. We have no clue what inflation is going to do. It's just all at the hands and at the mercy of a couple of people in suits, and they just tell us one day, right? Inflation's 5% now. Now it's 10. Now it's 20. Now it's 0. Now it's 20 again. Right? It's all over the freaking place. But everyone knows. So if you're going to set up a Bitcoin mining operation, spend millions of dollars on setting that up, you have factored in the halvings. You factored in the hard cap. You know what you're doing. So surprise, surprise, all the mainstream commentators that thought all these Bitcoin miners were going to switch off, they didn't. If anything, even more, well, factually, more have switched on since the halving. So, but there's a great clip here from Max. I've got to play it, haven't I? Gonna have to do it.
The new basis upon which one can exercise their self-worth, self-experience, to be yourself, to be your authentic self. You can do it right here in El Salvador because this is the country of the free, the land of the free, the home of the Bitcoin. You can be who you want to be. You can be who you are. There's no restrictions. No one's telling you what you have to say, when you have to say it, and what you have to say it about. Just say the truth. Say the truth, and you will be free. And you can do it right here in El Salvador.
There's good old Max just pumping up the El Salvador crowd there. Um, he's getting quite a lot of heat for it, admittedly. I love the enthusiasm of Max, I must admit. I think we need more people like Max in Bitcoin. He's a great marketer, a great speaker.
I
Does he go a little bit far? Of course he does. Is he a little bit exaggerated and a little bit too out there? Is he probably looking 7 lines of coke deep at this point? Yeah. But do I still love it? Yeah. So, I love the fact that we got Max on our side and people give him a lot of shit and go, oh, El Salvador's not all that. But I go, at least El Salvador's trying, right? At least El Salvador is a potential place where Bitcoiners can go. Is it the Nirvana? Is it perfect in every single way? No, fuck no. But can realistically a proper Bitcoin haven really exist right now? No, the entire Bitcoin space is worth 1.5 trillion. Right? That's nothing on the world scale. Once you factor in, oh, let's bring 500,000 people into that. Doesn't work, right? We need to be 10, 100x the valuation of what we are to really change a country. So yeah, Max clearly is shilling for El Salvador. I hope his intentions are all pure and he's, it is a good place. Obviously, I haven't been to El Salvador, but I love it. But what do you guys
So
think?
I can think
you,
we can stand by Max because Max and Stacey, I should say as well, because both of them have been talking about Bitcoin since 2011. So on the day of the halving, or it's actually a day before the halving, and I kind of sent into our Signal group a little bit of a link. Well, it was a link of everybody talking. And it's mad to think that these guys were both gold guys and then moved to Bitcoin. And ever since 2011, they have been talking about Bitcoin, telling everybody that will listen, buy Bitcoin. Even so much to say that they were on Russia TV today. That was their channel, and where they were having their regular weekly shows talking about what's going on in the world and why people need to buy Bitcoin. And similarly, like us, they were updating everybody on the benefits of Bitcoin as well. And so I I think they've definitely stood the test of time in terms of their credibility and anything that they're doing around El Salvador, I think is in a good spot and in a good place.
Think, Doctor?
yeah, I was just going to say, I was just having a quick Google Max Kaiser. There is actually a Wikipedia page about him, which I was just having a search through. But I feel like, he's obviously shilling El Salvador, but I think in terms of his intentions, he lives there, doesn't he? Or he
Yeah.
partly lives there. So I
Yeah,
kind of
he
look at it and
does.
go, I think, I don't think there's anything which you can point at him, to be perfectly honest.
I know it really annoys me if you read some of the comments, like people are going, "Oh, he's cringe," this is doing damage to Bitcoin, da da da. I just go, guys, admittedly, like Max has got a little bit of a checkered past, as in like he has shilled a few shit coins,
Oh,
back
has
in the
he?
day. Yeah, but I honestly think that was just part of his journey. He came
Mm,
into Bitcoin as straight away as a big name because he already a personality. He was already on the news doing that Russian TV, talking about the economy, blah blah blah. So he got into Bitcoin, I think became a Bitcoiner, and then just went, yeah, got into Bitcoin for number go up, was a bit of a shitcoiner, but in the last probably decade, like literally
yeah,
decade, he has
yeah,
not touched a shitcoin and is Bitcoin
correct.
only. So we can keep dragging up something he did 12 years ago. And like Jesus, I shitcoined for a couple of years when I came into Bitcoin. I did. I was in the streets trying to fucking be a degen and like because I didn't know what I was doing and I found my way and went, oh, this is not what I want to be doing. This is just scamming. This is bollocks. I'm here for the revolution, not just for the short-term gains. So yeah, because a lot of people put him against like Michael Saylor, right? We've got him later on in the agenda anyway, but it's I don't know. We can have both, right? Michael Saylor is like the CEO version, never says a wrong word, very professional. He's the kind of guy that if you're going to introduce him into a company, who are you going to bring, Max or Saylor? Clearly, it's Saylor, right? Max is going to come in fucking all guns blazing. But who would I want to go for a beer with? Max all day. You
Yeah, all day long, all day long. And he's always been this like over the top eccentric type of guy as well, if you look back at some of the older clips. So he is no different today than he was a decade ago, if not longer.
But yeah, the next story is we've got some potential gossip, drama. Admittedly, this is it's a week or two old now because admittedly we've missed a couple of weeks, but and it's all kind of blown over. Seems like it's a nothing burger, but we'll still talk
Mm,
about it because it seemed like something at the time, right? So there's a guy called Matt Odell who is basically calling out Saylor. He's saying one of the big ETFs was going to donate to open source devs. Saylor told them if he did, he would crush them. So they pulled out of the commitment. So I remember was talking about that, and because people didn't even like the fact that an ETF was going to fund core devs because there was a potential conflict of interest or a potential that these big fiat financial institutions were going to have ownership over core devs that should be independent and like funded via a decentralized source. If you're getting it from, because it wasn't a BlackRock, but it was one of the ARK Invest and Fidelity and Van Eck, those like smaller kind of guys. But still, you go, if they're going to fund 3 or 4 people, let's just say they're going to throw them 100 grand a year each to work on Bitcoin. Do they have a say on what they work on? Could they say, oh, we want ordinals in Bitcoin, or we want you to fork Bitcoin, we want you to make the blocks bigger? Could this become a problem? That was the discussion previously.
But we've still got the kind of like I can't think how you describe it. If it does happen and it gets a hard fork, we just stay with the original version. They can have their fucking hard fork. So I feel like it's there's like a theory to this, but it plays out. It doesn't change.
Yeah. What do you
It's a
think though
mild
about
inconvenience.
Saylor telling the ETF not to do it?
Well, it's simple.
I understand his point, but it's a free market. I think it goes around against what Bitcoiners stand for. So let them do it. If they fuck around with it and it becomes a vested interest, it forks. We just go with the other fork.
It's decentralized at the end of the day. So it's not just one man's decision. And
Yeah.
it doesn't all just hinge on Saylor.
I guess the point is though, right, is if that was true and Saylor is trying to actively defund core devs, because the tweet that's being put out is that this investment into the developers was going to be good. It's a good thing. Right? It was very much they weren't going to mandate what they worked on. They were literally just going to throw money into a pot, and then the community decides how that pot should be spent. And there's these 3 or 4 people that seem to be good Bitcoin devs. They get the funding, right? So it's completely disassociated with the company. They're genuinely just helping Bitcoin. And the tweet says Saylor stopped that. Like, why would he stop that? And the argument and the conspiracy theory is that Saylor is almost like an undercover CIA, FBI type person, and he's almost here to bring Bitcoin into fiat as opposed to being a genuine advocate for Bitcoin. That was the conspiracy theory around this, where Saylor actually isn't an advocate for Bitcoin. He's actually pretending to be. He's actually an enemy of Bitcoin, which is evidenced by the fact that he's trying to stop Bitcoin core devs from being funded.
I just think it's a free market. No matter what he says, I think he probably shouldn't get involved.
Yeah, but what would you say if it came to be true that he was getting involved? How would it change your opinion of Saylor?
I think he needs to get a reality check. I think he's got a bit too big for his boots, and if he's getting so heavily involved, because he's not Bitcoin, he's just a person who invests in Bitcoin.
I'm trying to understand why and understand if that really was the case, because I don't think that from everything that I've seen, is the case. And if it was, it would be more because I think he would be trying to save Bitcoin in some way or protect Bitcoin in some way, because, for him, he's got a lot to lose as well. And maybe he's just thinking outside of the box for other people. I haven't seen anything so far, and obviously we've seen a lot of bad actors, but I haven't seen anything from Saylor that would be to the detriment of Bitcoin.
Yeah, but I was going to say, if he is getting involved, I think it's just, he needs to have a reality check. It goes against what we believe.
Yeah, it's the next like linked tweet that I've put on here is from Sam Mao. And he just breaks it down a little bit more detail. He's kind of got like a nice approach on it really, because Matt Odell doesn't know which ETF that supposedly Saylor blocked the funding for, but apparently Samson has gone. I know which one it was. It's Ark Invest. So that is Kathy Wood.
Yeah.
I would, Kathy Wood.
Another
And so yeah, so it's that one that supposedly Saylor is.
great episode in the archives, that one.
It's got like 7 views, that one. It's fucking nuts.
I know.
What was
All the best ones are the ones I think that are really good. Yeah, they don't really get much, but that's another conversation, isn't it? The ones where
what
we
was
think
it?
they'll
What was
never
it?
hit.
What was it? Cappy Wood, I would.
Yeah.
I think my favourite cover is the Daddy one. I just cracked me up. Like, we agreed to do an episode for anyone who hasn't watched it for
The
a
everyday
friend of the
man.
show's father who's very skeptical about Bitcoin. So we agreed to answer his questions, discuss them. And Mr. All
Great
In here
questions.
obviously does the video editing at the end, obviously top notch, and names the episode, puts in a nice JPEG as a cover, and he calls it Daddy.
Yeah.
I get the ordinary. Was it the ordinary man? Is that what we call
Yeah,
it?
the everyday man. The everyday man.
The everyday man messaged me, says, I can't show this to my dad. I'm like, you can. You called him Daddy once upon a time, didn't you?
I think it's his is it his dad or is his father-in-law?
It was his dad.
Okay, yeah.
The thumbnail is a picture of Jamie Redknapp as well.
We don't really understand that one.
No, I was very drunk that night. It was just like, what am I doing this for again? Oh yeah, we're doing it for the everyday man, Daddy.
Daddy.
Like, who's the perfect daddy? Jamie Redknapp. And then, yeah, that's how that happened. But
Good. It's a
yeah,
good one.
it's a classic like in joke. It's probably why it's got like again 7 views because
Yeah,
it's an in
yeah.
joke that literally 4 people will get, 3 of them of us, 1 view. But hey, we do this pod
I
for
think,
ourselves, not the viewers.
but I think it was
No,
worth it.
exactly.
I think it's worth it just to wind him up.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, the content is actually really good inside that pod, but you got to get
Yeah.
past the fact it's called Daddy with a picture of Jamie Redknapp on it. So it's almost like
Yeah.
a time
It's
preference thing. Can you get
It's
through
got 23 views.
it? Yeah, it was called Daddy. Like, like who the hell knows what's behind
And
that?
then 5 episodes before that, there's an episode called Nick Farter. Such a bunch of children.
But the good thing is that like literally like timestamps when Nick Carter became Nick Farter. That's when he shitcoined. So
And then a month before that is the inflation dragon, which is my explanation for how things always get fucked up.
yeah.
We haven't talked about the inflation dragon for a while. But anyway, what were we actually talking about?
Oh, fuck knows.
Well,
Michael
we
Saylor.
just talked about Saylor and
I think we finished that one though.
yeah, I think we finished that one and we're good to move on, aren't we? There's another friend of the show, and I use that one loosely, is Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock. Now he thinks that Bitcoin is cool, but blockchain is cooler. Now, Larry Fink has obviously certainly changed his position on Bitcoin from not wanting anything to do with it at all to probably being second behind one of the largest spokespeople and advocates of Bitcoin behind Michael Saylor. So Larry Fink is kind of getting it, but not. And he doesn't get it.
You got to remember that his point of view is fiat world. He's fiat financials. He lives and breathes fiat. His overlords say deal with fiat. He's the best in the business with fiat, isn't he? And I get his point because it's actually bringing. If you separate and just go ignore Bitcoin altogether, and you look at his perspective, how can I make a revolution in investing? I can put it on the blockchain. I can put all the shares in the world on a blockchain. and it means immediate trading without fucking sending them paper certificates. And I do get his point, but the fact that it's rammed in a sentence with Bitcoin, you're kind of just going, it's not really, because we're kind of like, his point is more about the legacy fiat world. Do you think when you sell your shares through, who is it? I can't remember. It begins with an E, but you have to send your share certificate in every time you want to sell.
Equinity.
Yeah, Equinity. So you're just kind of going, it is archaic. So I get his point around that. But it's just the fact that it's blended into an overall conversation with Bitcoin makes it a bit of a strange and I suppose, misleading conversation.
Right, I'm going to play the clip.
To be anticipating the next move. I would also say on the beginnings of a ETF Bitcoin, we believe ETFs are a technology no different than Bitcoin was a technology for asset storage. We believe the next step going forward will be the tokenization of financial assets. And that means every stock, every bond will have its own, basically, CUSIP. It'll be on one general ledger. Every investor, you and I, will have our own number, our own identification. We could rid ourselves of all issues around illicit activities around bonds and stocks and digital by having a tokenization. But the most importantly thing, we could customize strategies through tokenization that fits every individual. We would have instantaneous settlement. Think about all the costs of settling bonds and stocks. But if you had a tokenization, everything would be immediate because it's just a line item. And so we believe this is a technological transformation for financial assets. I believe if you want to talk about voting and voting choice and all the things, if we know every moment who is the owner of that stock and it's now time to vote, every individual who has ownership is identified and they can vote their own shares.
That is a complete load of nonsense. I still can't believe that we're doing, Bitcoin's great, but blockchain's got the bigger potential. He's talking about tokenizing everything, shares. Oh, you can vote. What is he? Literally, you can do that now. Literally, you've already tokenized shares. It's literally, that's why I can buy shares on my phone and I can vote on my phone for the shares that I have. You don't need a blockchain for that because sometimes.
But what you do have at the moment is your shares theoretically don't actually belong to you.
Yeah, they won't belong to you on a blockchain either. Like just the fact that the ledger has changed. Like it's still going to be a private blockchain that is owned by BlackRock. And guess where the share certificate sits? Like the legal implications of where that share sits is not going to change, no matter whether BlackRock put their shares on a blockchain or not. It's going to be exactly the same situation. And it's because the thing is, like, this is why I think sometimes we forget why Bitcoin's blockchain is so unique. It's because it's decentralized. It's because it has a finite supply of Bitcoin on it. It's because it has value.
I suppose my thoughts were about having the decentralized kind of shares.
They're not
But
decentralized.
but you're right. It won't. It'll be the BlackRock blockchain.
Because like, who's mining the BlackRock blockchain, right? There's no block reward.
It will be BlackRock and JP Morgan.
Well, yeah, exactly. It will be literally an Excel spreadsheet, which is an SQL database, which is what it is today. And they'll call it a blockchain, and they'll give you an app that says, "Oh yeah, it's on the blockchain. You can vote on the app." It's like, right, but if you want to take my shares away and give it to someone else, can you do that? Oh, of course they can. Like, could it be an error? Could it be whatever? Like, yeah, but fundamentally, there's a single source of control. So it's a database that's centralized. BlackRock will own it. If they want to switch shares around from one to another, they can. If they want to increase the amount of shares in a company, they can. It's a database. The only reason the Bitcoin blockchain is so unique is because the fundamental parameters of the blockchain are fixed. It's decentralized. We've all agreed to it. We know when the halvings are happening. We know there's 21 million Bitcoin. We all protect the rules of Bitcoin. And that is what makes it unique. If none of those things existed, the Bitcoin blockchain, and by the way, anyone can go and take a copy of the Bitcoin blockchain and fire up a different version of it. It's useless. The code is genius, but only because Satoshi launched it and people believed in it and people started mining and securing that network. The code on its own is a worthless piece of shit. So that's essentially what BlackRock are going, oh, we're going to take a copy of it. You go, well, that's great, but no one believes in your version. BlackRock own it. It's a database. It's worthless. It means nothing.
Yeah, and like you said, it
Yes,
doesn't.
that's the network effects, isn't it, of why everybody trusts Bitcoin as opposed to any other that's out there. One word that I have learned, which I don't know, I'd never actually come across it before, but during the halving, is the word epoch,
Epoch.
which is, yeah. So I'd never ever came across it. And I was just like, wow. So I am still definitely learning more and more through Bitcoin. So it's the 4 years in between the halvings. So EPOCH.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's so we,
told you that?
as in Dr. Evil 10% and I came in the halving epoch of Epoch 3, which was obviously 2017. 2017. So that was epoch number 3. So there will be new people obviously coming into what will now be epoch number 5. And during the halving, it was very interesting of what's actually gone on in between each epoch. So, the epoch of what we're entering into now could be the BlackRock epoch.
Oh. Yeah, unfortunately, you're right. Yeah, yeah, but epoch is it's a generic term, isn't it? An event or time
Yeah.
begins a new period of development. So, but yeah, unfortunately, I do think we have entered the ETF epoch.
Yes.
Yeah, which
We had the ICO epoch and
yeah,
the NFTs as well, but I do think this is the rhetoric for this certain period of time in this epoch.
yeah, we have yeah. It'd be interesting to see what the next one will be really because literally like I literally got into Bitcoin because of number go up.
Mm,
It was supposed to be the ETF was going to get approved, and this was like nearly 10 years ago now.
mm.
So the fact that it got approved so much later than it should have, this was almost felt like, oh, this is the final boss. Like once the financial system caved to this, we kind of win. But we're there now, and you go, oh no, we're nowhere near winning. We're still at 1%, if that, like
Yeah.
penetration on the population of to be Bitcoiners, right? And you just go, okay, maybe we are back to countries, companies. Who knows what the next halving will be? But 4 years is a long time, right? And
4 years is a hell of a long time, and we've
yeah,
gone through so much. And if you look back at the last epoch of the whole FTX debacle and the BlockFi's and things like that, and obviously the ETF approval was in the last epoch technically, and yeah, we couldn't have guessed any of those things in the epoch duration either.
Well, we have got runes in this epoch.
True. Hopefully, it's a small blip in the epoch era.
Right. Shall we move on to the next story to talk about this is the actual head of the Fed. This
yeah, it's the big boy.
oh fucking hell! I marked him down in my notes as though he's obviously had something said him and he's just echoing it.
Oh, well,
So
that is true, but this is Neil Kashkari, who is the president of the Fed.
oh my word.
Should we play a clip?
Yeah, play the clip.
So I shouldn't ask this next question, but I will. I came from a reader. When will the Fed put Bitcoin on its balance sheet? You've already said on record that you have an unlimited supply of dollars. Doesn't it make sense to trade some of them for a currency with a hard cap?
Yeah, what is that hard cap? I mean, the hard cap, I guess, is zero for Bitcoin. It could go down to zero. Just replace the words Bitcoin with Beanie Babies. Should the Fed buy Beanie Babies? Because Beanie Babies were a fad for a while, had no actual utility in the economy other than they were a nice toy that some people enjoyed owning and trading. I always ask people, has anybody actually bought anything with Bitcoin? And Bitcoin enthusiasts will say, oh, yes, I bought something. But I'm talking about in mainstream America. When I travel around and I give talks, I always ask the audience, has anybody in this audience ever bought something with Bitcoin? A sandwich, a cell phone, a book, and nobody ever has. It's the only use case that I can come up with, except for the evangelists who contort themselves to try to find use cases. In the real world, the only use cases that I've seen are trying to subvert banking regulations. Get around either marijuana banking or illicit activities, et cetera. I don't think subverting banking regulations is a legitimate use case. And until, one other thing I'll say, the Bitcoin bros who are watching this right now are saying, oh, you're a Neanderthal. This is like, you'd say in 1994, nobody ever bought a book online, so Amazon has no future. This is not Amazon in 1994. This is Amazon in 2004. Bitcoin's been around for more than a decade, and more than a decade later, there's still no legitimate use case in a democracy, an advanced democracy. And so how many years do you need to test this out until there's going to be some usefulness other than the Bitcoin bros? It's like a religious revival for some folks. So my skepticism, unfortunately, has only grown.
Yeah, I just watched it and I just thought, he's copying what his seniors say and doesn't really understand it. Is my kind of like feedback about this, but now knowing that he's the actual head of the Fed, it's just, he evidently knows it, but he's just going with the easy, basic propaganda. Let's try and destroy Bitcoin. Don't have to really worry about it. So he comes up with, what is it? That's Beanie Babies for criminals. And just comes up with like, oh yeah, apart from the evangelists, who actually uses it? And it's like, well, El Salvador may want a word with you, or maybe they just want to give up now, or maybe all these other various countries, cafes, economies where they use it, maybe want a word with you, or maybe there's certain shops, etc., who will use Bitcoin. Not every single one does, but it's becoming more and more commonplace. And like, you're not talking about, oh yeah, Amazon is this example of, oh yeah, we're selling books and CDs and DVDs. This is replacing money. It's going to take time, and it's still got work to do in order to get that.
Yeah. I love the fact that they read out the question, because the question is clearly from a Bitcoiner that was baiting him. And so the woman this is clearly part of like a wider Q&A, that the head of the Fed is answering loads of questions from the community on various things. And the question is so loaded, but so cleverly like put in. And she goes, oh, I don't want to ask this question, but basically, are the Fed going to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet? And then because you have infinite dollars and it's backed by nothing, surely you want to put some of that into a currency that does have a finite supply. And you just go, well done for getting through the filters there. Because if you'd gone any harder, it would have clearly got filtered out. But it just about made it to at least make him answer the question.
Yeah.
His answer is clearly just, it's all over the place. Yeah. And yeah, like obviously Marty, who's the guy who's linked here, he's posted this video. He even lists, Amazon as an example of, a company that it's not like investing in an Amazon. It's more like investing in Beanie Babies. But even if you take the Amazon example, Marty puts it in the tweet below, when Amazon was 15 years old, it was worth about 60 billion. Bitcoin is 15 years old. It's worth 1.33 trillion. So even using the bigger example that he gave, he went, Bitcoin is Beanie Babies, not Amazon. You go, oh, no. We're not Amazon. We're way bigger than Amazon.
Yeah.
It's
It
yeah.
is in financial. It is in financial instruments. It is in a country more widespread. It's in various other countries being used. Being used in probably most countries across the world, just not every shop.
Right now,
it is infiltrating.
It's literally it's in like, I don't know, like 1% of pensions already.
Yeah.
How many people have Beanie Babies in their pensions? Right? It's just zero is the answer, right? So yeah, and he literally even says at the end of his comment that his opinion of Bitcoin, the more he learns, the more he's a detractor, and his opinion goes down on Bitcoin. You just go, no. You are clearly just, you're not being objective. You are clearly spinning, a government line here, which is shit on Bitcoin because it's clearly a threat to our fiat system. But if anything, I can't believe they actually asked this question in a very clearly sanitized version of a Q&A. The girl read
it through. Yeah.
Actually read it out and made him answer it. Because he looked, for any even slightly informed person, he looked a fool. Because it's
I mean, I believe that at this moment in time, there's still so much to do in terms of, making your 12 or 24 words easier to remember and safer to safeguard, and making it easy to understand what the hell is this digital money. All of these things, as well as the large pension funds and the large like treasuries and financial companies to be able to spend their money in Bitcoin. All of this is all to come. And so we are at the very, very beginning of the journey. And that's what makes obviously Bitcoin the best money, but equally the number go up in due course. It's just not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, boy.
So Inflation Weekly. I love Inflation Weekly.
Is this someone who we should know?
No, just a random, I believe, with a great beard. Got it. What a beard.
Yeah, it looks softer than like baby's hair, doesn't it? That beard.
Yeah. He's
But
using some next level products on that beard. Go for it.
Okay, I'm about to rant about the fucking IRS. If you can imagine that right now. They sent me a bill saying amount you owed was $15,617. Interest, $2,000. Failure to pay penalty, $1,359. Total, $18,992. Okay, with that being said, first off, it's made out to me. I'm not going to show you all my information, but it has my wife's social security number on it. If you think I'm going to pay this to y'all, or even file my fucking taxes this year, you're fucking stupid. I am so sick of our government taking our money, They tax us on every hour we work. They tax us on gas, food, everything we buy, property tax, everything. It is fucking ridiculous. So, what you boys fixing to do is I'm going to go ahead and have my lawyer look over this. I'm not paying this shit. If you want to come find me and put me in jail, good luck. I'm not going to fuck with this. I am so sick of being taxed upon taxed upon taxed upon taxed. Okay? It's ridiculous. Our government has failed us, and we're not doing shit about it. We're not doing a fucking thing about it. We're letting it happen. We've got to come together and fucking take care of this shit, okay? I am vivid right now, dude. I can't even think straight. I'm so mad about this. Okay, out of nowhere, all of a sudden I owe fucking $19,000 to the IRS. Well, my message to the IRS is this. Fuck you.
Okay, we're back. So this is just I guess it's probably a recurring theme, right? I just stumbled across this. Well, technically it's a TikTok, but obviously on Twitter. But it's just another guy that's just fed up, isn't he? He's received a big tax bill, $19,000 that he apparently owes the tax man. And he's going, I get taxed on every hour I work. I get property tax. I get food tax. That all these taxes that exist in the world, right? And on top of that, he doesn't really go into where this 19,000 tax bill has come from. But we all know what it could be, right? It could be an investment he's done, it could be a property he sold, it could be whatever. Because whenever you move money, if you are making a gain in some shape or form, the government want a piece. And you don't have to be rich to fall into these traps. It's one of the biggest fallacies that I think probably the general normie falls into, which is, oh yeah, all these tax laws are there to just control the amount of money that the rich and famous make. It's like, no, this literally affects anyone that just doesn't have a day job, because your day job, you'll just get taxed straight out of it. But the second you start trying to be a bit of an entrepreneur, trying to get out of the trap, trying to become financially free, you start doing investments, maybe buy some properties, maybe buy Bitcoin, you do whatever you do to try and get out of that. The second you start taking profits in any of those things, the tax bills will come. And to be fair, like, obviously we're based in the UK. We don't tend to get tax bills like this where he's being told you owe us $19,000. But no, our UK government tend to just go, well, you owe us something. You better pay us the right amount. If you don't, then we'll tell you in a couple of years when we realize that you underpaid or whatever it might be. But I think it's just a great video just to show that people just getting to the end of their tether. These people aren't rich. They can't afford $19,000 just to throw to the government. This guy is clearly giving the government so much money and they want more. And he's just going, I've had enough. I'm not paying this one. And at the end of the video, he challenges and goes, if you want to put me in prison, put me in prison. And obviously,
I may well.
That is the problem. Yeah, they will. They will send him letters that will threaten putting him in prison. If he ignores them, he will get a court date. If he doesn't turn up to that court date, he will get arrested. He'll get dragged to the court and he'll be imprisoned.
Yeah.
So but this I rewatched this video just before the pod actually, and I just tweeted it out and just went that we can all stop this if we convert our fiat to Bitcoin and we stop paying our taxes. If everyone did it, they can't get us all. Right?
Yeah.
The problem is there's only the odd person that goes, I'm not paying my tax bill. And because it's the odd person, they have the resources to contact you, to arrest you, and to have a court date and all that stuff.
So you go back,
If millions of us did that, they can't arrest us all. They can't have court dates for all of us. They haven't got enough prison cells for all of us.
but you go back and income tax was only meant to be temporary, wasn't it? Was it after the First World War, or was it another occasion? And then also you throw in the American Revolution, was them rioting about a 3% tax.
Yeah,
And
the
I think it
British
was
was
on tea. It was an import tax on fucking tea.
yeah,
And
3%
now
tea.
and now we've all got taxes of probably 50 to 60% of our income, which is direct. So, you know, in the UK, so probably some of theirs, they have property tax, we have council tax, we have income tax, we have national insurance, we have VAT, we have fuel duty, we have like it on everything. So we have it on the energy for our house, we have it for the fuel for our car, you then pay VAT on a car, you then pay your road tax, you then pay your council tax, your income tax, you've got your capital gains, you've got inheritance tax for when you die. And then when you look at it, you go, well, that's probably 60%, 70% of your earnings every year, it works out to be when you average it out.
And the beautiful one, the big catch-all one, inflation as well. Just to
when you think about the last 4 years, it's probably around about 50, 60%.
Yep.
So, you know, that tax on its own is absolutely astronomical.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think
To be fair, even if taxes were zero, if the only thing that existed was inflation, the last 4 years we'd have all been fucked over. But we don't get to keep 100% of our stuff. We probably lose
But
60 to 70.
here's the point about this: they've stopped the blaming on the corporations. I think everyone's gone. It's not the corporations, is it? You know, the farmer hasn't got together with the yogurt maker and got together with the gas supplier and got together with the car maker and got together with the computer maker and all said, let's increase our costs by 20, 30%. Everyone's just gone, fucking hell, our money's becoming worthless, isn't it? I think the penny's finally starting to drop. But back to the tax, we're getting taxed the hilt, and that's just direct as well. So you go, every product which you buy, you are paying for that person's tax amount, the company tax as well. So the company tax as well. And then you've got employers NI in the UK to throw in for all those people. So they're paying 50 to 70% tax. You're paying your 60, 70% tax. And the person who they're buying stuff up. So you kind of go, how much is that product actually worth in the end? And how much is being cycled through the government? It's just a giant parasite.
Yeah.
And like I said, you go back to it and go, the Americans revolted about 3% on their tea for imports.
And it's nuts, isn't it? That 3%, obviously they were going off zero before, and then suddenly 3% is going to be taken away, and it's a revolution. But once you take 40% and you go, we're just going to take we're going to take 42. Everyone just rolls over and takes it. And unfortunately, obviously, we were growing up in that world. I pay my taxes right now, and I'm largely ashamed to say that I do because I know it is theft, but I do it for an easy life. And like I said, if we all just had the balls I've done step one, which is convert my fiat to Bitcoin, but I haven't taken step two, which is to stop paying my taxes. Because right now we need to do it en masse because it is just obviously
it's not so straightforward that
pay.
in the US it's collected as they may say payers. The tax, how much we know, but we're not going to tell you. Whereas in the UK, it comes out of your pay because we're mostly people who are employed by companies, and most people do have the tax taken away. So it's not as straightforward in the UK. Like the US, they could start revolution quite easily if they could all align. Whereas UK, how are you going to do it?
Well, I guess in the early days, it would just be Bitcoiners and the capital gains people. And everyone that's self-employed. Obviously, self-employed people, I've largely been self-employed the last couple of years. So at the end of the year, I have to submit my tax return. And if I don't submit it, then there's no tax to be paid, is there? But I know they can see my bank accounts. I know they're all KYC'd, AML'd to my identity, to my address. So they can see the money coming in. And if I don't give them their pound of flesh, then I know there's a risk there's a knock on the door. It just sucks. And I drive down the roads, people go, oh, we would have shitty roads if there was no central government. I've nearly broken my car freaking numerous times on the freaking road that I drive out of every day. And massive potholes. Oh man. Like what we get, the amount of money that I have paid into that system. Like literally I've paid seven figures into the tax system at this point, and the level of service that I get. Literally, like, it's like little
It's
things,
a
right?
giant Ponzi scheme, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Well, it's an ongoing Ponzi scheme that isn't actually being, it's never going to be fixed.
Well, if this was private, you get fixed because you go, I'm not fucking paying. You go, okay, you pay road tax to drive your car on the roads. I'm not fucking paying. Not the state of these roads. They'd sort it out.
Yeah, or they'd lose the business and you'd hire someone else. But and it's just like it's the basic things, right? So, I've got like a dodgy tooth at the moment. So what do I have to do? I've paid my taxes. Can I use the NHS that supposedly is a free health service? Can I help? Right? I can't get in. I've moved recently. I can't get an NHS dentist, so I've got to go private. I've got to pay to have my tooth taken out, right? It's whatever. But yet another example where I'm paying for a service, not getting it. I'm in pain, so I have to just sort it out myself. And guess what? I'm paying again. So there's a load of NHS dentists somewhere that I have funded to 10x what I would need them for. Literally, I haven't been to a dentist in about 20 years, right? So, which is partly why I'm in the mess that I'm in now. But it's just nuts. I have to go private. And the ironic thing is the dentist I'm going to is an NHS dentist, but they're full. And they only have like 3 appointments a day for NHS patients, and they're backed up like 5 years or something. So, oh, but all afternoons are private. So you can come in next week if you're private. You go, well, okay. And they want like £400-500 to take a tooth out, and you go, well, yeah, clearly that is for me, it's a good value for money because this is hurting.
The pain,
Fine.
yeah.
That's a good transaction. But when I reflect on it and go, I probably paid tens of thousands of pounds into the dentist industry. I'm finally asking to use it, and they're saying no, go private. And it's I'm literally just getting like not only am I getting a bad service, I'm getting no service. They're literally just they're putting closed on the door. And I'm just going, okay, even though I paid for that product, I'll just go buy it again from down the street. And
You and all the other millions as well, because you're not the only person in the same position.
it's completely nuts.
Yeah, it's pointless. But we're getting to a point where they're trying to
spineless, aren't we? We're spineless.
Yeah, they want to merge income tax and national insurance. So for anyone who's not in the UK, national insurance is meant to be for the NHS, so medical care, and also for our equivalent of social security. So if you lose your job, but they're trying to merge the two. And the reason why they want to merge the two, which is bloody obvious, is they want to slowly cut out the fact that you have access to the NHS, but they want to keep the tax so they can keep on ploughing it into what they want to. Rather than you a service. And it's bloody obvious they want to do that. Oh yeah, that's not meant for that. That's meant for unemployment when they start taking away that too. So you're left with nothing, but they're still taxing you at like an extortionate rate. But anyway, we could rant about inflation all night. We have a final story. Quite a funny clip actually. Definitely one quite short, worth playing. And he's spitting facts. So
I love property, and let me tell you something. If you care about your fucking country, I'll read Ludwig von Mises and the 6 lessons of the Austrian economic school, motherfuckers.
Who is he? By the way, I've got no idea. I just love the clip.
He's called Renato Mocciano, UFC fighter.
So if there's any UFC fans like myself and Mr. All In, The week just gone was UFC 300, and yeah, one of the fighters had this to say. I think you played the clip, but and
So you need to
ultimately,
click your fingers.
I've already played it.
yeah, he's already played the clip. He's already played it.
Well, you just keep on doing like this to really fuck up. Going through it.
I mean, looking through this video now, being like, oh, what is this?
But ultimately, yeah, I do think that anybody that listened to him and followed him and has followed his journey will wake up, and it's just a mainstream of Bitcoin trying to um trying to encourage the masses to take this on.
What's really interesting is he doesn't go for the Bitcoin standard.
Hmm.
He goes for Mises. So I've not read this book myself, and I've looked at it on Amazon. I am a slave to Amazon with my Kindle. It's 124 pages, so it's not a long book either. So I think it is one which everyone should have a go at reading, especially if this guy's recommending it.
You go on. What's the quote? He basically he's literally like, this is weirdly, this is the night before the consultancy day where the guy came up to me and said he'd been orange pilled, because I couldn't believe I'd accidentally done this, right? It's a UFC 300, biggest card in a fucking decade. The problem is it starts at midnight, ends at freaking 6:30 in the morning,
I know.
and I've got to leave at 6:30 to be there for 8:30 to start this day. Am I going to do this on zero
On
sleep?
a Sunday, when you told me this, I was just like, what? Like, this is some super dedication. I didn't know it was the external consultation gig, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Because they had like a whole week planned. It's like people coming in from China, America,
Yeah.
France, fucking Germany, the whole shit. So once you're doing that, it doesn't really matter what day you start, does it? So I was just day one, and then the rest of the days they went on. So I just ran day one, and so I couldn't believe it that it landed the day after UFC 300. I
Yeah.
was totally gutted. But then obviously I woke up and then watched the majority of the fights anyway, a day later. But then to see this guy, because it's probably about as far as like being like shilling an investment you can get, right? You're not going to do that after you win a fight. Like, this guy's literally just been in a cage, smashing someone to pieces, and he comes out saying, "I love private property, and let me tell you something. If you care about your fucking country, read Ludwig von Mises and the Six Lessons of the Austrian Economic School, motherfuckers." And you just go, this guy is so far down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. And he's just decided to go, when I win this fight, I'm going to dedicate my post-fight speech, which for anyone that hasn't watched UFC, they literally get 30 seconds, right? It's just literally great fight, da da da. And he clearly has not listened to the question. He's just gone, I don't give a shit what question I get. I'm going to say this. And he's just going, I like being a private individual that owns his own shit, and money is worth something. That is largely what he's saying.
Yeah.
And the majority of people don't own anything. They don't own their own money. It is all a huge problem because we're on obviously Keynesian economics, not Austrian economics. So it's just such a surprising place to hear it. Like, we've had the odd UFC fighter be paid in Bitcoin and be a Bitcoiner, but really you go, do they really get it? He doesn't mention Bitcoin in his speech here, but I think he gets Bitcoin better than any other UFC fighter that I've heard talk about it, because in that 5 second like little clip that he just said, like, number one, fair play for him dedicating those 5 or 10 seconds to this topic. Normally people thank their team, their family, da 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 da. He's just going, fucking read Austrian economics. You need to read Ludwig von Mises. You go, wow. Who knows how many random people on the planet that are going to pick up that book, read it, and in a couple of years' time go, holy shit, inflation is theft, isn't it? And boof, we have a whole load of new set of Bitcoiners, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, fair play for him to do that because yeah, I haven't seen anyone else giving that level of because it's not even like he's not even giving the answer, is he? He's not saying, you know, get out of fear, you know, US dollars are theft, get into Bitcoin. He's going like a number of levels deeper than that by saying read Austrian economics, which admittedly is a tactic that I have never used. I mean, it's just a little bit too far away from the core point for the majority of people, but I admire him for trying, especially seeing the fact that he's been in a cage getting slammed in the head for the last probably 15 minutes. Like to come out of that and still remember to say that at the end is commendable.
Are we done?
I think you're nearly asleep, so never look. So yeah, I think we're done.
I was like, yeah, I was thinking, are we in? Early night for me. So I am gonna call it there. Pod 137, brought to you by Mr. All In, aka the $1 trillion man, Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution, and signing off. I'm not even going to mention her.